All right, so we're back here for the second episode of the Euro Pod. Of course, I'm joined by my man JB. What's going on, JB?
What's going on? What's going on, Coach? Coach.
Just chilling, man. Of course, we chopped it up a little bit prior to the start, talking about our bad performance of our football teams. Definitely, it is what it is. But man, well, a lot of great action in the association this week, man. I guess we want to start off. And it's funny, we did the show last Monday, and then within like 24 hours post show, there was a NBA trade involving Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard for a while that Milwaukee was linked to you had heard Milwaukee, you had heard Cleveland. DeAndre Jordan made a plea for him to come back to the Clippers, but I really like the Bledsoe trade for the Bucks. I know some people they were saying that you shouldn't trade a big for a guard, but I think the main reason why I like the deal, they didn't really have a point guard. They have a point guard now, so you can play Bledsoe point guard, and you can slide Malcolm Brogdon over to the two guard. Um, Greg Monroe. Why did I just call him Eric? Greg Monroe is not good for today's NBA. Me and you, we've kind of mentioned guys like Greg Monroe are kind of dinosaurs. I mean, he's a big guy. He doesn't really move well, and because he doesn't really move well, he's a liability on defense. And with a guy like Monroe, you probably can only afford to play him about 17 to 20 minutes a game because he's such a liability on defense. And then on top of that, you would like for your big guys to be more versatile. He really can't shoot from the perimeter at all either. So I really like this move for the Bucks. I think that it's going to maybe take a while for them to incorporate him, for them to get some good chemistry. But they went 2-0 last week. They played 2 games. They won in San Antonio, and then the next night they turned around. They beat the Lakers. So I mean, they're 2-0 thus far with him playing. So, but I really like the move for the Bucks though.
Yeah, and I also agree with it too. I look at it just from the standpoint of, like you said, they didn't have a true point guard. They had a lot of depth in their front court. So of course you're getting rid of him. Then you pick, which I think a lot of people were kind of against that. But what Milwaukee is doing in essence is they're not trying to fish to get a top pick in this draft. They want to win now. It's probably going to be maybe within 15 to maybe in the high 20s or maybe mid to late 20s. So of course they want to win right away, and then they already have that type of depth, because I think Milwaukee's going to be, I call it, of this league where because we're really shifting now to positionless basketball, and they have, I think, the future in Giannis with the Greek. So I look at it from there, and then they already have depth anyway. You have a guy like a John Henson. Shout out to my UNC Tar Heels. And also guys like guys there already. So it's almost like it was like a bone. It was like giving away Greg Monroe wasn't going to hurt them long term.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, Chris, I agree with you 100%, man. Like, getting rid of Greg Monroe doesn't hurt them, man. I mean, you look at a John Henson, you look at a Don Maker. John Henson and Don Maker are better suited for today's NBA with the range that they play, and they're longer and they're a little more athletic than Greg Monroe is. Greg Monroe is really not that athletic. He's kind of Greg Monroe and my former Duke Blue Devil. I can't think of his name right now. He plays for Philadelphia. I can't think of him right now.
Jaleel.
Jahlil Okafor. Yeah, Jahlil Okafor. They're dinosaurs. I mean, you cannot play these guys that long. They're like very slow-footed, and teams are going to kill them when they're out on the court. Teams are going to put them in a pick and roll. And if you put those guys in space, I mean, Lord have mercy. That's all I have to say. And, you made another good point, too, Chris. They were going to get a mid-range draft pick. So, think about it this way. Are you going to get a player this year that's going to be as good as Eric Bledsoe? No, you're not. You're not going to get a player at his ability at that pick. So, I mean, I think that you go ahead and you make the move. I think it's a no-brainer.
And you even look at, and I'm glad you brought up the topic of Malcolm Brogdon, because now he has had to be a point guard. He can be your 2. He can be your guy. And that's what it's like. And then you just couple with a guy like Chris Middleton. this team can do damage. And now with them having a legitimate point guard makes them even better. Like,
Yeah.
perfect. To me, you got Eric Bledsoe for
Oh yeah, man. They got Eric Bledsoe. I mean, it was a good move. And also, Eric Bledsoe, he's a good defender, and he's a decent offensive player. I mean, he's not the greatest shooter in the world, but I mean, you just can't leave him open for three. So I think that their spacing is going to be much better now. I think you look at Bledsoe, you look at Brogdon, you look at Middleton. They're going to have more spacing now for Giannis. So I mean, I like the move, man. I really do. I think one thing that is going to make them a little better. They have been kind of horrible on defense. Bledsoe is a good defender. He's a very, very good defender. So their defense is going to get a little better. So, and I think addition by subtraction, I think getting Greg Monroe out there, their defense is going to improve now because of that too. So I think it's a good move by Milwaukee. I think Phoenix, they are rebuilding. So
yeah, and it'll be beneficial for Phoenix because what they'll do, they can get obviously they're gonna get a top pick. Then coupled with that guy, they can possibly have two starters on that team, and they can establish their own identity. And I think it's fine with them. And then even with them, that clears up their logjam at the point guard position because you're thinking about I know they still have Archie Goodwin, the other guy Ulyss. They got a whole lot of point guards on that team as well. So to me, kind of clear their depth as far as the he had the depth of a lot of front court compared to Phoenix had. They were pretty much a whole bunch of point guards, Kentucky point guards at that. So both of it will work out for them in the long run. Phoenix will definitely, I think, even with that pick, they'll probably get a starter. They'll probably can kill two birds with one stone in that trade.
Oh, I agree.
Man, so like we talked about them last week, a nice pleasant surprise, and of course, dominating fast the other night, defeated the Kings by it was like over 30 points. Now,
yeah. So
we both, you came up, you coined the phrase Coney, the king of New York. So are we ready to claim Kristaps Porzingis as the king of New York?
I mean, let's like that. Man, I like what I see from him, man. Like he's improved every year. Now, is he going to average 30 points for the rest of the year? No, he's probably not going to average 30 points for the rest of the year. But his impact on the game, man. Like I sat down and I watched the Knicks. He's bringing excitement to the Knicks again. So I mean, when the New York Knicks are good, it's good for the league. It's good for the league for the Knicks to be good. The Knicks being lousy is not good for anybody. Ratings will be up. I mean, I just like his versatility, man. We were talking about this the other day, me and one of my friends, and I was telling my friend, Coney has a better skill set than Dirk Nowitzki. And, think about that. Dirk Nowitzki is a top 20 player of all time. He's got a better skill set than Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, like the thing that's really impressive about Coney is that he can just, handle the ball. He handles the ball like a guard. If you try to run him off the 3-point line, he can blow by you. He can slam him. So, I mean, like Coney, definitely, man, he's bringing some excitement to the Garden. I think that with no Melo there, it's clearly his team. And I think, he's showing thus far this year that, he's willing to shoulder the load. So, I mean, I'm just – the more I watch him, the more I'm impressed. I mean, the other thing that I think is, really impressive about Coney is that he's a good defender. I mean, he's not a bad defender. He can move his feet well. He's 7'2", 7'3", and with his wingspan, he's a pretty solid rim protector. So, I mean, like he does everything that you want a new age big to do. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the ball, he can post up, and he can defend. So, I mean, like, every time I watch this guy. I've watched him this year. I've watched the Knicks a couple of times this year. I've been very impressed. And they have a big game coming up this week. They're going to go against Cleveland. Cleveland's going to come into the Garden. So I'm going to, if I have a chance to, I don't know exactly what day it is, but if I have an opportunity to, I'm going to sit down and watch the game, and hopefully I can watch most of the game.
Yeah, I like what they're doing, like you're saying, and I like what I like about him too, as far as versatility. He's making guys a lot better. You look at like how he spaced the floor. I looked at more the Sacramento game more so than I think that's the first game I really seen was the Sacramento game, and I just seen how like you said, that's the energy is picked up, the pace of the Knicks I picked up, and like you said, I just think he is actually the king of New York, and to me, like you said, when the Knicks are good, the NBA is probably like even better, especially when you have a superstar like that, and we are, like I was saying, we're almost in the era of positionless basketball where him and Giannis, these are going to be the guys who I think will carry that torch to be seen in the next few years coming soon. So yeah, I definitely like what he's doing. Like you said, I think don't let the 30.4 points per game fool you at this point. It'll tell off. But, I mean, he'll be in the high 20s.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question now. And this is a question that last year I would have thought was a no-brainer, but now I'm looking at it, I'm just like, you can make a legitimate argument. K.O.N.Y or Giannis? K.O.N.Y or Giannis?
Well, today, November 13, 2017, I think K.O.N.Y be better. The only thing with Giannis is once he develops a mid-range, but for today, November 13, 2017, I would go with K.O.N.Y.
Yeah, you know what? And honestly, I think that's the thing that's lacking the most from Giannis's game. He's not a consistent distant shooter. If Giannis can become, I would say 30, 31, 32% consistently from, the outside and, get the mid-range into the high 30s, possibly 40, Giannis is going to be, hell to go with. But I mean, Giannis is, his jump shot is, really not that good. That's the weakest part of this game. K.O.N.Y's a much better shooter than he is. I think that, it's definitely a good argument, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Like, start a franchise, pick K.O.N.Y or pick Giannis. I don't think you can go wrong with either guy. I just think that right now, K.O.N.Y, if it's a part of the game that's clearly lacking for Giannis, it's his outside jump shot. And if he ever develops it, man, Giannis is going to be unstoppable.
Right. That's yeah. If he is that mid range, it's a done deal. Like he will be the best player in his league.
Oh yeah, no, he will be. So yeah, Giannis. Since we're on Prozingis, man, like, do you think? I know we can't have a deeper conversation about this until maybe 30, 35 games. Do you think Melo regrets accepting the trade to Oklahoma City? I mean, I just think it's really a shame that Melo couldn't coexist with K.O.N.Y. They could have made a very nice duo, man. Like K.O.N.Y at center, Melo at small forward. That could have been a very, very nice duo, but it just never worked. And why do you think it didn't work? So my question is, like, do you think he regrets accepting the trade, and why do you think that him and K.O.N.Y never got any, good chemistry together in the 2 years that they played together?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I have to look at it from his standpoint. Call me crazy. I don't think so, because I honestly think the New York situation would have worked for him. Period. I would even go date back to Jeremy Lin. I thought that was going to work out for him. I looked at Jeremy Lin was a a legitimate point guard at that time that he could feed to him, because Carmelo game is like, So to me, I thought you had a guy that can give you, that can set you up. and set you up for easy shots. I thought that would work out for him. And then you look at Prozingis. I thought that'd help him out too, as far as like the spacing on the court and what have you. So, to me, I don't really think he was feeling it in New York after a certain while. I think felt as though that he should have been like the number one guy there, in the sense where, like, because I think there was a little animosity towards Jeremy Lin because he had the head of Garden Rocking. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think he regrets. I think he regretted.
You don't think he regrets it? Okay. Well, man, it's going to look bad in a couple of years if K.O.N.Y has a deep playoff run with the Knicks. And Carmelo really never did it. I think Carmelo's best year, Knicks went, 54-28, and they got knocked out in the second round by the Pacers. It's going to look really bad if K.O.N.Y within the next few years outdoes Melo.
Hell, he might do it this year.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if they're playing the way they're playing.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, because the East has been, a kind of a disappointment this year. I mean, some teams in the East have been kind of a disappointment. Like you look at the Wizards. The Wizards have been, kind of a disappointment this year. I would have thought with them pretty much bringing back the same team that they did last year, they would have got off to a faster start. And you look at a team like Detroit, who basically has incorporated a couple of new pieces, and Detroit has gotten off to a hot start. And, I think Detroit is definitely, unless something catastrophic happens, I think Detroit's definitely a playoff team, and Detroit might be a top 4 team.
Yeah, because they're at 10-3 already, and like you're saying, Detroit is rolling. Definitely. Huge shout out to and it's what is Sam Van Gundy's brother name? Oh shoot! Off the top of my head.
Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had the right Van Gundy. I had the right Gundy.
Yeah, you had the right. You said Ron Jeremy. Yeah. Ron Jeremy.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I call him the poor man's
Ron Jeremy. Yeah.
So, what they're doing in Detroit is very phenomenal at this point. 10-3. They really have shown something, and who's to say? And like you said, we also talk about the Knicks and some other pleasant surprises in the East. And like you said, the East is just is very wide open.
Oh yeah, it's very wide open. Now, I do think that there are going to be some teams that come back down to reality, like a team that I'm expecting, and they've started to fall off a little bit. One team out west has kind of fallen off, and I think people got overexcited with their 4-0 start was the Clippers. I didn't think the Clippers were going to be that good of a team this year. They've lost 7 of their last 8 or 9 games. So the Clippers have kind of fallen down. Indiana got off to kind of a hot start, and Indiana has kind of fizzled out a little bit too. So, every year you kind of have teams, they get off to these, really hot starts, and then they kind of fizzle out. So.
Yeah, and that's how the NBA is, because I always look at the NBA more so than any sport because of the 82-game season. It's more of a marathon more so than the race. You look at, especially in other leagues where every game is critical. But in the NBA, like you said, you can 82-game race. Of course, the first 15 games, hey, you could be 13-2, and then like you said, just tail off, and certain things happen, certain factors happen. So it's always type of stories early on in the season. But teams are going to tell off because it's just going to happen. You're going to run into stretches, and you're just going to run into certain teams where they're at a certain point in their season. So who's to say?
Oh yeah, and every team has a funk that they go through. I would say there's probably every team has a 5 to 7 game funk. Now, the one thing about the good teams will manage to win most of those games, even if they're in a funk. But I think teams sometimes they go on these swoons for 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes they'll get hot and then they'll get cold. So
And speaking of people that are hot and cold, man, what about these NBA rookies, man?
oh man, this rookie class has really been struggling. It's not really that surprising to me. De'Aaron Fox has struggled. Like he can't shoot. De'Aaron Fox is struggling. Lonzo Ball is struggling. Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of struggling a little bit too, but he and the kid from Utah, I can't think of the kid's name right now. The kid from Utah, Mitchell. They are putting up good numbers, but they have a very high usage rate. The kid from Utah, Mitchell. I can't think of his first name right now.
Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell. So, I would say that probably the rookie that has struggled the most has been Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball has struggled a lot. Now, we're going to talk about his triple-double a little bit, but, Lonzo Ball, his body of work has been quite bad thus far. So, the question I want to ask for you is, why do you think he's struggling so much? What are you seeing?
I think it's a combination of factors. I just look at you look at him on the court. I see a lot of passiveness, which I want to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, but then I'm like, being an Alonzo Ball apologist, but of behavior, and even people say that he doesn't have a lot of finishers, but it's basketball. To me, it's like you're never gonna always have the people who you ideally want, but at the end of the day, pass to a guy that maybe don't have no ability. We look at maybe you can kick it out to guys like Julius Randle, Brook Lopez, Brandon Ingram. I mean, they may not be the best finisher in the world, but hey, show me something.
Yeah.
It's more so of and then you want to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. And I'm always thinking to myself, well, he's only 20 years old. Guys really actually reach their potential until they're in their 21, 22, and hell into the league at until 22, 21 years old. That's a lot of factors that are going on in his head. I'm not trying to ball angle of it. I think he's just a rookie who's just struggling, and I think that with time, I think he'll be fine. I think what happens is people as fans, people just in general have really as if this guy's gonna give him high expectations. And I think it's one of those things where, and I think in essence, he's, in a sense, call me crazy, more so expectations, because I didn't think he was going to set the league on fire. And I knew, it was going to take some time.
Oh, yeah, man, I agree with you. Now, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the passiveness or whatever, and, I think that you have to know and you have to pick and choose your spots as a point guard in the NBA. And I think one of the big things is that he's not passive when it comes to passing the ball. I mean, I think his passing has been phenomenal. I mean, you look at, we'll talk about a little later, but you look at his triple-double, man. He is great at touch passing. He just has it. He has, great instincts when it comes to passing. But when it comes to picking and choosing his spots, when it comes to, shooting, he's very apprehensive to shoot. It's like he doesn't know when he needs to shoot, and he doesn't know what kind of shots he needs to shoot. So he doesn't really have a flow when it comes to shooting the basketball. And the other thing that I'm seeing, when it comes to one of the reasons why he's shooting so bad is shot selection. But another problem I see with him too, he's a very small guy. He's very small, and he has trouble playing through contact. One of the big things, one of the big differences between college basketball and professional basketball, a lot of the fouls you got called in college, NBA referees are not going to give to you when you're a rookie. And he has trouble finishing at the rim because of the contact. He's not getting the calls. And, one thing that I've noticed is that he's leaving a lot of his shots short. So, I mean, I think it's probably going to be another year or two of this. He's going to have to develop more of a body. He's going to have to get physically stronger. He's 6'5". He weighs like, I think, 170 pounds. So, I mean, basketball is a man's game. And, you were talking about finishing. That's Brandon Ingram's biggest problem. So now Brandon Ingram is shooting the basketball a lot better so far this year. But Brandon Ingram has trouble finishing at the basket because Brandon Ingram is such a small guy. He doesn't really have that upper body strength. And, as a guard, you have to be able to finish. If you can't finish at the rim, you're going to have a very bad shooting percentage.
Yeah. And I think and it speaks to what we've got to this point where, these guys are coming out early. And like we said, even how we think they're going to develop in 2 to 3 years for them to actually stay in school compared to being in the NBA and learning on the fly, which the argument, well, when you look at it from the standpoint of the NBA is the best way for them to learn compared to being in college where they have to focus on education instead of working on their game in the NBA. But it's not necessarily true that guys actually get to that level and actually literally work on their games. I've been back and forth with this.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest arguments, and I have this argument with my dad, is my dad keeps on saying that some of these guys need to stay in college in another year. I disagree I disagree with my dad about this because I think that you really can't become that much of a better player in college because a lot of times the college coaches can't work with you in the off season. Whereas if you're a professional, you can have a trainer and they have coaches that work with the players in the off season. So I feel like you can become a better player sometimes as a professional basketball player than you can as a college basketball player. But, like you look at, De'Aaron Fox, he's another really skinny guy. And, he's having trouble finishing at the basket too, because, you have to be able to play through contact. And, one of the big things that LeBron James had an advantage over, LeBron was a man when he came to the NBA. LeBron was 6'8" and weighed 230 pounds. He had the body of a man. He didn't have a really frail body. And, sometimes it takes a couple of years for you to go into your body. And, I feel like you don't really get to your, you're not that strong until maybe you're 25, 26 years old. Even Kevin Durant didn't have, that good of a body, until he, got older. So these rookies they're gonna struggle. And you look at the two rookies that are not struggling. They are not really small guys. When you think about it, you look at Ben Simmons in Philadelphia, he's not really struggling that much. And you look at Jason Tatum in Boston, both of those guys have bigger bodies. So they're not struggling as much.
And it ain't like you saying, yeah, and that's what it comes to. Just the size. And I think, like you said, and they'll be fine. Like, and it's, and I would use also my biggest argument as far as like college versus NBA. And then when you think about it in college, you're a system that use going into the pros.
Yep.
It's, and it's very difficult to have that. And it's like, and even though it hurts the NBA product, but at the end of the day, person a whole lot better, even though they take their lumps here for the next maybe 2 to possibly 3 years. But hey, it's gonna help them in the long run because this is where they're gonna spend their most time. Because even if you're a 5-year vet, you're gonna be in there longer than you are in college.
Yep, I agree most definitely. I think that sometimes people have unrealistic, and I think let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think one of the things that's actually hurting Lonzo too is his father. His father has kind of we talked about this. I think what his dad did, his dad basically people knew about Lonzo Ball, but he turned it into he turned Lonzo and he turned the Ball name into a household brand, which was smart business wise. But I think that every night Lonzo has a target on his back because his dad has done so much talking, and I think that players are getting up to play him and they want to really embarrass him because of some of the stuff his father has done and some of the things that his father has said. So I think that might be weighing on him a bit too. He has a lot of expectations on him.
And I agree with it too. And I look at it now because at first I was very critical initially. When I really, especially with him, I learned in essence, look at everything. Don't take or miss his words out of context. Because a lot of people, when you heard this thing, oh, he's magic, this, that, and third, the whole entirety of the actual interview, and he explains like, well, I on my son, but there's more pressure than that in the real world. Example of, when you got the bills in your name and you're living on your own, pressure lies. So stuff like that in comparison, but I think that's going to make Lonzo a lot better because it's cool now at 20 for him to do that because hell he's going to rise above it because I remember everybody was killing him against Patrick Beverly, and I'm like, y'all gotta understand NBA game. He's going against the top premier guard defender in this league. And what do you thought he was gonna have? You thought he was gonna have a triple-double against him? Like, no. He had a game that I knew personally that he was gonna get. And I think that they don't read into it in its entirety. And that's one thing I've learned with Lonzo Ball too. Instead of crucifying him in a sense, kind of read about what he's all about or read or listen to the whole entire time. And I understand, and it's one of those things where it's just like you have to just take it for faith. You just have to take it for what it's worth. And don't just say, well, oh, he's just said that he's better than Steph Curry. But there's a reason why he said that. To go and look for that.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. But, his body of work, he has struggled. But, he had a good game over the weekend. He had the triple-double. Youngest person to get a triple-double in NBA history, right?
Yes.
So, what did you think of the game? What was your analysis of the game?
That thing with it, it's like he's a typical rookie. Where you're gonna see flashes of him, you're gonna see the good in him, and you're gonna see the bad in the nice. And then you gotta think about it, because East Coast trip. How people don't understand. I think just the travel is it's crazy. And when you think about it, when you're thinking about you're in one city one night, then you're in the next city the next.
Yeah,
I like what he did there because he had was it not 16, 11, and I forgot what was the stat line on that one because it was 19 assists. Was it?
Let me double check because let's see.
So from what I recall.
I'll pull it up right now. So he had 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 13 assists. He also had 3 steals. He also had 4 blocks in the game. So that's a really impressive stat line right there. He had 19 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. That's a really, really impressive stat line right there.
And on the road, because that was against a Milwaukee team.
Yeah.
That impressive, and and that's what's going to happen with him. And that's the thing with a rookie in the sense you're gonna have the good games, you're gonna have the bad games, and that's like even consummate professionals. I mean, even point guards in this league who've been here for years are going to have those type of stat lines where you're going to struggle one night and then you're going to have a triple double the next. So
yeah, you just hope. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I cut you off. I was just thinking that with the rookies, you hope after the All-Star break you start to see some improvement in their games. You hope that they start getting better as the year gets into the second half. I think the biggest worry that you have with the rookies is that they're not used to playing that many games and hitting the wall around the 25 to 35 game mark, and that lasting a while right there. Because these kids are young, they're not used to playing the NBA game. They're not used to dealing with the NBA schedule, so fatigue's going to set in at some point.
Yeah, and it's a whole entire world. And I think, and I even thought about it. Even if you for a college team like the Blue Bloods, if you playing for like Carolina, Duke, where you in a sense you travel across the world for only a certain segment of the season. Like in this case, especially now in this non-conference block, you're traveling like Duke is going to Chicago, like this and third, they're probably going to other places around the country, and you gotta understand these pretty much 15 games in a month when you're thinking about it, and then just the travel alone. And especially if you're not like at those major programs, it's a complete shock because most of these guys who travel, if you, especially non-conference wise, because most of your conference, you don't really the distance aren't as far. But like if you're playing for those blue blood programs, you can kind of get it, this, that, and the third. But then especially if you're on those 8 to 10 game road trips, I mean, you're on the road for possibly in some cases almost a week and a half to 2 weeks compared to, you're looking at how these tournaments are, and even the NCAA tournament where you're only going to be there for like 2 or 3 days, if that. So yeah, it's going to be, it's an adjustment.
Oh yeah, so adjustment, and then you also, another thing I'm going to talk about too. A lot of these guys, like they're not used to being away from their families, so that can kind of weigh on them too. Like I mean, like I'll be honest with you. When I first went to George Mason, me living in a dormitory by myself, that was kind of a bit stressful. So and I kind of had some stability because I was, I had classes, I was going back to my dormitory, but these guys are traveling to different cities, different hotel rooms and stuff like that. So, like that kind of has to weigh on them, a little bit too. Because you think about it, some of these guys have not, lived away from their parents because, even when they went to university, sometimes their parents would, come to the games all the time, or the parents would move to their new city. If they were, going to be a one and done, the parents would move, to, the university city with them.
Yeah. There's probably tons of parents that moved to Durham, North Carolina.
Chapel Hill.
So, yeah, and like you said, and then going to these big cities, and you're 19 years old and you're making millions of dollars, and it's like, it's where it's like people will say, "Oh, that's envious." There's certain responsibility that comes with that, especially now in the age of the social media where these guys know how, and who's the same. You could be doing something and you not even having somebody that's videotaping you on their phone.
Yeah,
it is a lot to deal with.
Yeah, most definitely it is. It's an adjustment, and like I said, like you hope that the rookies, figure out sooner or later. But I think Lonzo's going to be okay. But one concern that I do have is that, like people thought he was going to be this transitional, offensive talent. The more I see him play, he reminds me of Jason Kidd, who wasn't the greatest offensive player in the world. Don't get me wrong, I think Jason Kidd's a great point guard, but Jason Kidd wasn't really known for his offense. Now, he became a much better three-point shooter, the second half of his career, but Jason Kidd wasn't the kind of guy that was going to drop, 21, 22 points on you, 11, 12 assists. Jason Kidd was, more of a 13 to 15 point kind of guy, the assist and then play, elite defense. So, like the Lakers put a lot of stock in him, and I think that, they think that he's going to be this, great offensive talent, and I'm not sure if he's going to get there.
And it's interesting that I think if you look at that stat line compared to each other their first, I think it was like it did a chart for like the first 11 games, and it was eerily similar. Kidd, I think Kidd averaged at that time was like 9.8, and I think Lonzo had like 8.7, something like that. And the assist numbers, I think Lonzo was up in assists on rebound. So I'm like, yeah, and I think he will be. And I think what happens is UCLA. Then let's suggest that he was a pass first point guard. And that's why, like you said, and the expectations of him becoming this offensive juggernaut is crazy to me. And I'm like, slow your jets. I don't think it's going to happen. And like to me, that's going to be his game, and he's going to have, and you know, and with due time, and I think he's gonna get a nice upgrade. I say it here, and I think everybody's pretty much as going to be saying it. But the other elephant, we got two elephants in the room that we think LeBron. He might have LeBron there.
Oh yeah, he might have
LeBron
there. Yeah, he might have LeBron there, and I think that the team is definitely going to look a lot different next year. I think that Julius Randle's not going to be on the team next year. Probably Contavious Caldwell-Pope is not going to be on the team next year, and I think there's a good chance that Brandon Ingram might not be on the team next year either. This is the big thing I think that you have to consider with Brandon Ingram. With Lonzo and with LeBron potentially being on the team, can Ingram play without the ball in his hands? And I just get the feeling that Ingram is the kind of guy that needs the ball in his hands, and that's okay. But I think you would be doing him a better service if you get rid of him if you go that way. So the team's gonna be very different. Now, I also think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez, I think, would be a nice piece, but he's a free agent at the end of the year, isn't he? So they might have to potentially sign him back. So it's going to be interesting. That Lakers team is going to look a lot different next year.
I agree. And who is to say? And I think going forward, what they're doing, wise with Rob Pelinka and Magic, they're gonna shuffle the roster around, and it's gonna tailor towards him. And I think in due time they'll be up fine. And like you're saying, I think it's just one of those things where I think me and you collectively, we understand that rookies are going to struggle. You're gonna have good games, you're gonna have bad games. We didn't think that Lonzo Ball was going to be this transcending figure, that he was going to be like Magic, like LeVar said, because his team isn't going to win a championship game. And of course, they don't have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, aka Cap, on this team. So of course, we knew what he said was just fool's gold. He's just doing that to create an illusion. So we thought he was. So and I think with due time, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be a legitimate point guard in this league going forward.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. But yeah, the Magic analogy was not good. Magic was, Magic basically inherited a team that I think had made the conference finals the year before he got there. So the Lakers had been a playoff team, and he was teaming up with a couple of Hall of Famers. Jamal Wilkes was on that team. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was on that team. There are no Hall of Famers maybe Brook Lopez at the end of his career. But I mean, you don't have any surefire Hall of Famers on that Lakers team yet. So I mean, I think that it was just hype. The hype, it got people interested. So I mean, people are watching Laker games this year. So
yeah, and I think Ball and the family is doing good numbers on Facebook. So hey, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Man. So before we put a bow on this week's show, man, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts, man. I want to know what's going on with Kawhi Leonard. Before the year started, it seemed like he was only going to be out a few games, but it's 13. And look, I'm not worried about the Spurs. The Spurs are 85, which I think is good without Kawhi Leonard, but did they lie about the seriousness of his injury? Because, I've seen him walking. He doesn't look too good, man. It looks like he might not be back until maybe next month sometime.
I know. And they gotta do something with it. Who's to say,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be definitely interesting, going forward in the why. So, our thoughts are, please pray for my Chicago. Of course, so we lost by Spurs the other night. Of course, they see on Wednesday, So not Wednesday. Yeah, actually, yeah. You know, just keep us in your thoughts, man. You know, I don't know if I'm praying for the #1 pick or am I want to get the third win before Thanksgiving. I don't know what I want at this point. You know,
Yeah.
so who's to say?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, man, I don't know what was worse. What happened to y'all? What happened to y'all on Saturday, or what happened to the Notre Dame fighting Irish in Miami on Saturday? That both of those were bad. I mean, like I was watching the game, the Spurs game, and I was like, man, Jerry Cross rolling over in his grave.
Yes, indeed, he's definitely doing that. And man, they look terrible. But you know, it is what it is. You kind of knew this was going to happen, so you know, no expectation. So where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I don't have any. I'm gonna get an Instagram account next week. I'll give you my Instagram account.
And I think we need to do a social media for our pod. So we're definitely on. We're in the works of doing that, and we you know do some stuff with that. We can just follow me on Instagram under Score Coach. Also Facebook, Chris Couch Coach Powell. Twitter under the Couch Coach. Also check me out every Friday on Couch Coach Live. Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LexiInternetRadio.com, man. So for Coach, man, this has been the episode 2, the Lonzo Ball edition.
Lonzo Ball edition, yeah. Episode 2 was good, and episode 3 will be coming to you next week sometime, folks.
Absolutely. I guess we're calling that one the Stephon Marbury episode. We got to find a famous number 3.
Yeah, we have to find.
I figure something out.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. So see you guys next week, man. It's the Euro Step Pod, man.